Around 1140, King Roger commissioned Al-Idrisi to undertake an unprecedented project, create the most complete and accurate description of the world ever attempted. The king provided unlimited resources, access to royal libraries, and most importantly, the ability to gather information from across the Mediterranean world. Al-Idrisi's methodology was revolutionary. Rather than relying solely on ancient texts, he systematically interviewed travelers, merchants, sailors, and diplomats who visited Roger's courts. Sicily's position as the Mediterranean crossroads meant that information flowed through Palermo from across the known world. Merchants brought information about Africa's trade routes. Byzantine diplomats described the geography of Eastern Europe. Crusader knights provided details about the Holy Land. Muslim travelers shared knowledge of India and the Far East. Al-Idrisi synthesized all this information with existing geographical literature. The project became truly collaborative. Al-Idrisi worked with Christian monks who had traveled to Jerusalem, Jewish merchants who traded across the Mediterranean, and Muslim scholars who made pilgrimage to Mecca. This interfaith scholarly cooperation was unprecedented in medieval Europe. Al-Idrisi's approach represented the best of Islamic scientific method: empirical observations, systematic data collection, critical evaluation of sources, and synthesis of diverse traditions. His work showed how Islamic scholarship could advance human knowledge when given proper resources and political support. For 15 years, Al-Idrisi worked on his masterpiece. He drew maps, wrote detailed geographical descriptions, calculated distances, and constantly revised his work as new information became available. The project consumed the latter part of his life but produced unprecedented results. The resulting work, formally titled Nuzhat al-Mustakh fi Ikhtarak al-Afaq. The resulting work, formally titled The Pleasure of Him Who Longs to Cross the Horizons, but commonly known as the Book of Roger, contained the most complete geographical description of the medieval world. The centerpiece of Al-Idrisi's project was the Tabula Rogeriana, a circular world map over 2 meters in diameter, engraved on silver, that represented the pinnacle of medieval geographical achievement. Unlike previous maps that were largely symbolic, Al-Idrisi's map was designed for practical use. The map's accuracy was revolutionary. Al-Idrisi correctly depicted the Mediterranean coastlines with unprecedented precision. He accurately showed the course of major rivers like the Nile and Danube. His representation of islands, mountain ranges, and peninsulas was far superior to any previous cartographic work. Where Ptolemy had shown the Indian Ocean as enclosed, Al-Idrisi correctly depicted it as connected to other oceans. He corrected the length of the Mediterranean, improved the shape of the Caspian Sea, and provided the first accurate depiction of the Baltic Sea and Scandinavia. Accompanying the great map was an extensive text divided into 7 climate zones, each subdivided into 10 sections. This created 70 detailed regional descriptions that included information about cities, trade routes, natural resources, people, customs, and political structures. The Norman court was amazed by the map's detail and accuracy. Roger II used it for military planning, commercial strategy, and diplomatic negotiations. The king recognized that Al-Idrisi had created an instrument of power as much as a work of scholarship. The European scholars who saw the map recognized its superiority to existing geographical works, but some were reluctant to fully embrace knowledge that came through Islamic sources, reflecting the prejudice of the age. Muslims who learned of Al-Idrisi's work were proud that Islamic scholarship had achieved such heights, though some continued to criticize his service to a Christian king as inappropriate for a descendant of the Prophet. Although the original silver disc was lost during political upheavals, copies of Al-Idrisi's work spread across medieval Europe. His geographical descriptions were translated into Latin and became standard references for centuries. Al-Idrisi's geographical knowledge extended far beyond the Mediterranean. His descriptions of northern Europe showed remarkable accuracy. He correctly described the relationship between the Baltic and North Seas, provided detailed accounts of Scandinavian geography, and even included information about Iceland and Greenland. His knowledge of Africa was unprecedented for a medieval European scholar. Al-Idrisi provided detailed descriptions of North African trade routes, accurate accounts of Nile geography, and information about East African coastal cities that couldn't be matched by European explorers for centuries. Through Islamic trade networks and scholarly connections, Al-Idrisi accessed information about Asia that European scholars wouldn't obtain for centuries. His descriptions of India, Central Asia, and even reports about China show the global reach of Islamic geographical knowledge. Al-Idrisi's maritime knowledge was particularly advanced. He understood seasonal wind patterns, ocean currents, and navigation techniques that were crucial for medieval sea travel. His work provided practical sailing directions that merchants and navigators used for centuries. Al-Idrisi's achievements reflected the global nature of medieval Islamic civilization. Information flowed from Spain to Indonesia through networks of merchants, scholars, and pilgrims. This created geographical knowledge that no other medieval civilization could match. His descriptions of trade routes were particularly valuable. Al-Idrisi mapped the Silk Road with unprecedented detail, described trans-Saharan caravan routes, and provided information about Indian Ocean commerce that revealed the sophisticated nature of his medieval Islamic trade. Al-Idrisi's urban descriptions brought medieval cities to life. He described the markets of Constantinople, the palaces of Baghdad, the libraries of Cordoba, and the ports of Alexandria with detail that helps us understand medieval Islamic urban civilization. What made Al-Idrisi revolutionary wasn't just his access to information, but his scientific approach to geography. He developed techniques for evaluating sources, reconciling contradictory information, and systematically organizing geographical knowledge that wouldn't be matched until the modern era. Al-Idrisi pioneered techniques for measuring distance and calculating coordinates that were far in advance of his time. He understood the problems of map projection and developed methods for representing the curved Earth on flat surfaces with minimal distortion. His climate theory, derived from Greek sources but refined through Islamic observations, divided the world into 7 climate zones based on latitude. The systematic approach allowed him to organize geographical information logically and predict conditions in unexplored regions. Al-Idrisi's combined geographical observation with astronomical calculation in ways that anticipated modern geodesy. He used star positions to determine locations, refined calculations of Earth's circumference, and understood the relationship between celestial observation and terrestrial mapping. Al-Idrisi represented the culmination of centuries of Islamic geographical scholarship. He built on the work of predecessors while adding original observation and methodological innovations that advanced the entire field. European scholars gradually recognized Al-Idrisi's methodological superiority, but it took centuries for European geographical science to adopt his systematic approach to data collection and source evaluation. Modern geographers recognize Al-Idrisi as one of the founders of scientific geography. His emphasis on empirical observation, systematic organization, and critical evaluation of sources established principles that remain fundamental to geographical science today.